Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm a planner with the City of Lafayette, and today's video will serve as an introduction to the housing element of the general plan. We'll cover state law requirements like the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, RHNA, the BART rezoning bill, AB 2923, local housing needs, the timeline that we're working with, and most importantly, community engagement. Feel free to click the timestamps below if you're interested in a particular topic, or you can join us for the entire video. Let's get started. This is the Lafayette Design Project. Published in 1961, it set the stage for decades of careful planning to envision how Lafayette would grow. The community's current master plan, also known as the General Plan, was adopted 41 years later in 2002. The new General Plan will be the blueprint for how Lafayette will look, feel, and grow over the next 20 years. It will determine how the city shapes decisions on everything from growth, land use, housing, circulation, open space, noise, safety, and infrastructure. While these topics are discussed in separate chapters called Elements in the General Plan, they are all interrelated, and together they will shape growth and development policies for the next 2 decades.
So think about this. 20 years ago, when we last did our general plan, there were no cell phones, there was no internet. And so we need to update this. And the things that are new to refresh is we have climate change, for example. We have new overflow traffic from Highway 24, from mobile apps. We have diversity and equity and inclusion issues that we want to include in this new general plan.
Lafayette's last comprehensive general plan update was completed in 2002 with a 20 to 25 year horizon. The City Council has initiated this current update to address the current and future needs and values of the community. The current general plan encourages the development of a variety of housing for people of all incomes, preservation of neighborhoods, and housing opportunities for all, regardless of race, age, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, or national origin. Over the next 4 years, a volunteer-led committee of Lafayette residents, called the General Plan Advisory Committee, will be looking to you, residents, employees, property and business owners, and visitors to let them know what they need to consider as they update the general plan. The process includes an intensive engagement effort with many ways to get involved. The GPAC and city staff will be hosting public meetings and informational sessions, community workshops, surveys, quizzes, walking tours, and much more. The city is at the beginning stages of the general plan update process, and the first step is the housing element.
And the housing element gives us a chance to chart our course going forward in terms of how we want to have housing change and adapt in the years ahead. And in that, there's a challenge and there's also an opportunity. And the challenge is primarily the state's mandate to increase the housing supply in California. And we, like every city in this state, have a mandate to come up with more housing.
The California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, sets the number of housing units a regional government needs to plan for in the next 8 years. These 8-year periods are called cycles, and we are currently in the 5th cycle, preparing for the 6th. The state issues overall numbers to each region, and each region allocates numbers to each local jurisdiction. This is called a Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, pronounced RHNA. In Lafayette's case, HCD gives a number to the Association of Bay Area Governments, known as ABAG, who then develops a methodology by which each jurisdiction in the 9-county Bay Area will receive its allocation. The city is not required to build this number of units. The market does that. Rather, the city must ensure there's enough land zoned at appropriate densities to accommodate the RHNA. The overall number is split into 4 income categories: very low, low income, moderate income, and above moderate income. What do these terms mean, and what is affordable housing? In Contra Costa, the median income for a household of 4 was $119,200. A very low income household of 4 would make 50% or less of this amount, a lower income household at 51 to 80%, a moderate income household at 81 to 120%, and an above moderate income household over 120%. Almost all of the housing built in Lafayette are in the above moderate income category. Lafayette's reallocation for the 5th cycle housing element was 400 units. Given the statewide shortage of housing, particularly affordable housing, the Bay Area's allocation has more than doubled for the 6th cycle, and Lafayette's draft allocation is expected to be 2,100 units. ABAG will issue updated allocations in the spring of 2021 once HCD signs off on the draft methodology adopted by ABAG. State law requires that the housing element contain a site-by-site inventory of land suitable for development of all housing types, including multifamily. As has been the case for the last 2 housing elements, staff has conducted a city-wide review of parcels that are either vacant or underutilized to discern if these sites are appropriate for development. These sites may or may not be developed into housing, as the choice, and always will be, the owner's decision. Some factors considered in the development of the site inventory include, but are not limited to, whether a site has an underperforming use on it, whether the site's topography makes it suitable for housing development, and whether the site is of sufficient size to be developed for housing. To meet its housing goals, the city will need to increase densities in several areas of the city. This is also known as upzoning. Let's take the downtown for example, a majority of which has a density of 35 dwelling units per acre. This means on a 1-acre parcel, a developer can build a maximum of 35 dwelling units, whether apartments, townhomes, or condominiums. Upzoning involves changing the zoning designation of a parcel to allow for an increase in dwelling units per acre. How that increased density looks depends on a number of factors, including existing design standards, the size of the lot, and the size of the units. Upzoning any parcel in the city is expected to garner some level of public interest. Does the city concentrate development in downtown? Should density be evenly distributed across the city, or should we only increase density near BART? Where, how, and to what extent the city increases density to accommodate the plus 2,000 units will be a key conversation for the housing element update. AB 2923, signed into law by the governor in 2018, requires that properties owned by BART around its stations be upzoned by local jurisdictions to at least 75 dwelling units per acre and at least 5 stories in height by July 1st, 2022. The BART parking lots totaling about 11 acres on Deer Hill Road will need to be upzoned to accommodate approximately 825 units, or these units will have to be built somewhere else. Rezoning these parcels for compliance with AB 2923 will also aid in reaching our RHNA allocation. The housing element will discuss much more than just the state law requirements like AB 2923 and RHNA. It's also a great opportunity to come together, look at our existing housing stock, and assess our needs moving forward. The community will collaborate on programs to expand housing opportunities to those with lower incomes, seniors, persons with disabilities, and the homeless. It's an opportunity to brainstorm ways to incentivize developers to include more affordable housing in their projects, and to help promote the construction of accessory dwelling units. The reason the housing element is being updated first is because Lafayette must submit its draft housing element to the state by the end of 2022. The housing element is the only piece of the general plan that is legally required to be certified by the state. HCD will review the proposed goals, policies, and programs to ensure Lafayette is doing its part to create safe, stable, and affordable housing opportunities for all segments of the population. 2022 may sound far away, but there's a lot to do before then, including gathering community input, drafting the document, getting feedback from the public, and conducting environmental review. If the city does not have a certified housing element, Lafayette could lose more local control over how and where housing projects get built, and could lose out on funding for infrastructure projects, receive substantial fines, and more. The general plan update is going to affect every member of the community, so we put a high priority on reaching every stakeholder possible.
So we'll know we have a good housing element when the community has really had a chance to work through the process, to learn about it, to talk about it, to work through the complexities of it with their neighbors, including those constraints of state law requirements, and then ultimately to have come together for a collaborative solution.
Opportunities to learn more about the housing element and provide input on the process are just beginning. The city has scheduled a number of info sessions based on geographic region and interest group in the city, so please pay attention to those. Feel free to visit planlafayette.org for those login details, and also visit our engagement platform, Engagement HQ, to participate in our weekly activities like polls, surveys, quizzes, and mapping activities. Thanks for joining us in the housing element video, and we will continue with the general plan.
And I think that Lafayette rises to the occasion, and I'm sure we'll come up with something that works well for our community.